that'll make more room for everybody. They've given us permission, it'll make things a lot easier. So it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Bob Anderson, the director of the Raptor Resource Project. I've been fortunate to work with him since 1994. Dave Kestrel up in the back also works with us. Got to wave, Dave. He's an absolute ace cliff climber and a real pleasure to work with. So I don't want to give a long introduction because I want Bob to come down and tell us what he has to say. So Bob.
Say thank you a lot. But it's not just me. There's a great team, and Dave Kestrel's up there in the corner. He's helped, and Neil Reddick, and of course Amy. And a lot because of you, RP's done a lot of great things. One thing that's kind of interesting, and I'm not an expert in this, but I hear nowadays that people are becoming insulated. They don't talk to each other. They can connect over the computers, and they don't meet in person. And, wow, have we proven them wrong? Isn't that I just have a couple things I want to say. There's some special people we need to thank. Dee Wisdom is one, and Sherry Elliott, and Dorothy Sargent, and we've lost Charlie Foreman this year, and of course Toolsboro Tom, and it was only a little over 26 months ago we lost Rob McIntyre. So those are great friends and great supporters, and it's really cool how all of you acknowledge them too. It's just I turned over a 40-page list of just condolences to Charlie's widow just the other day, and I just know it brought her lots of joy, and thank you for doing that. That was very kind. But also, David and Ann Lynch and Robert Brun, Glenn and Darlene Miller, they've all helped out a lot. And of course, the people that make the videos. This has got to be the most videoed bird nest on planet Earth. And I've also been it's really been huge to have a lot of help from the Iowa DNR, Chuck Gipp, who you'll probably meet maybe, and Pat Schlerbaum, Bruce Arisman, the non-game people for the Iowa DNR. They've always supported our work, even with falcons, and now with other bird cams here in the state and other species. And then a real special thanks to Fred and Lavert Calkins in Hawaii, who really helped underwrite the installation, the underground installation of all the cables to the new nest, which was very, very, very expensive. And so we're so lucky to have you and all these great people working, and thank you. We just thank you immensely. We've done some great things, and we hopefully will continue. I'm going to go through a slide presentation here that I gave at Cornell University a few months ago, and I was really honored to speak at Cornell University. So it's actually going to be two programs. We're going to be talking about bird cams. What else? And then years ago, I started doing some research on Indian mounds, and so the second part of my talk is going to be something different. It's not eagles and it's not bird cams, but it's going to be some research that we just published. This is a slide of a wonderful slide that our good friend Neil Reddick, which is here today, took when we were making the documentary, The American Eagle, which I heard to believe that was 6 years ago. A stunning image. It's one of my favorites. And then Neil took this one of me when we were looking at the nest to install the cameras for the documentary, and then I'll install the cameras each year for it to go out over the internet. People love that image. The nest is probably twice that size. That nest there was only 1 year old when I was up there. And that's a picture of the old nest. This is what mission control looks like, and I'll be at the hatchery this afternoon, and probably a lot tomorrow in case somebody wants to just come and see mission control. You're more than welcome. And then again, this is a shot of the nest that I took from the barn window, where we did some filming and making of the American eagle. And this is what our cameras kind of look like. I build a system, and then I hook them up, and I put them on a fence in my backyard, run cables in my house, and then I test them. I test the cameras for at least a month through rainstorms and just everything. And when I know that the cameras are working and the microphones are working, then we'll actually go and install them up in the nest trees. And this is what we can get, with these zooms. It's just, and you've seen it. You guys, other people hadn't seen it, but we've all seen these stunning tight images that you can get. And of course, the Y branch. Remember that? No, it seems like that. And And again, this is what cameras can do. I put this show together at Cornell University because they're just really getting involved in bird cams. I want to show them the potential of what, if by having a pan-tilt zoom camera, when you can zoom in and you actually see the baby emerging from the shell. And probably a lot of you have watched this also. And there's a good and the bad with bird cams. I mean, this is an eagle cam that we have in Colorado that I think we've had now for our 11th year, I think. And this year the camera lens got hit by projectile poop. But, and it is out of commission, and there's a chance that we're going to probably go there hopefully this next month and rebuild this system back in. But this shows that what the adults really have to go through. It was a pretty powerful shot where this female incubating totally covered with snow. We've seen this with the Decorahian eagles, too. And I remember, I think this was like 2011 or 12, and the world went crazy. I mean, they just went nuts. I mean, there were people calling me up demanding that I go put an umbrella over them. And hundreds and hundreds of emails saying, surely there's something I can do. But this is the wonder about having a viral bird cam, is people got to see everything, the good and the bad. And so it's this is life. I mean, it's not Disney-fied, it's not altered, it's not, pretty-fied. This is it. This is truly the life of a bald eagle. And then, with having infrared cameras, we were quite surprised to discover this. We had raccoons in the nest here in Decorah. At the very same time, we had raccoons in the nest in Colorado. And so now when somebody comes up to me and says, well, my nest failed, my eagle nest failed, I tell them, put some tin around the tree. And because I think that is the number1 predator when it comes to bald eagle eggs or bald eagle babies are raccoons. And there was an eagle cam in Virginia about 10 years ago where a woman was just studying the prey base that the eagles were bringing in, what species of fish and things like that as part of her research. And so she wasn't going out over the internet, she was just recording to a DVR the life cycle of what was taking place at that nest. And she captured 2 raccoons eating 2 full-grown babies right live. I mean, and they can be, quite aggressive. And I shudder whenever I see them or hear them up in the nest tree. And this is a shocking image to me. It really is, looking right at the camera. But this is
The victor.
That's karma, I guess. And then, as part of my work with falcons, which is really most of my life has been the peregrine falcon, and every year I usually do a river survey, at least one a week, which is about a 400-mile round trip, checking cliffs. And I was doing it a couple years ago, and I saw this nest, and I saw a bird in it. That's an eagle nest, by the way. But that's a Canada goose that's nested in it, which made me laugh, And that's not the first one. I've seen geese in Canada geese nests. I mean, in bald eagle nests many times. And here again, too, when we had an infrared camera, I don't know if you remember, the first year we did not have infrared. So when we did have the infrared camera, and after I got 10,000, please shut off the lights, threats, because people didn't understand infrared. I mean, it was really brutal to educate the world that, no, it's not a spotlight. It's not a spotlight, it's infrared. But one of the wonderful things is we learned something. I mean, the American bald eagle has been studied for decades and decades by a lot of wonderful scientists. And we thought the book was written, but our infrared cameras kind of showed us something. It showed us that raccoons will come in at night, and it also shows that the bald eagle can and will fish in total darkness. This is a rough fish. It's a sucker that the adult male brought in the dead of night, and the fish was alive. So he had to have caught it at night and brought it to the nest at night. And that's an interesting fact, because that means that indicates that our eagles are capable of being nocturnal. And I've not heard that at all before by anybody. And of course, this is a D1. Pretty famous bird, who now she's still up in Polar Bear Provincial Park, but her transmitter has not turned on now in about 12 days, which is we're all kind of worried about that. So it's been beeping for about 3.5 years, but a little over 3 years, I should say. But what did we learn? When I would walk down the streets here in Decorah and meet people, the first thing that they would ask me, or I should say, often I was asked, what happened to the birds from last year? What happened to the babies from last year? I mean, it was a real common question, and I couldn't answer that question. But fortunately, I've got a collaborator, Brett Mandernack, who's been putting transmitters on bald eagles, and he's a longtime friend of mine, and we've worked together for, almost 40 years. And but But so Brett and I did that. We were actually able to train the birds to come to a particular area at the hatchery. We wanted them to fly for a couple weeks before we put the transmitter on. And it worked. We actually caught D1 and put a transmitter on her, and what a ride. Her first year, northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. Her second summer, Polar Bear Provincial Park. Huh? I mean, who would have ever guessed that an Iowa eagle would go to Polar Bear Provincial Park? But she's now back up there again for her third time. So I mean, what a strange ride that has been. What have we learned? We learned a great deal with the satellite transmitter. And we did put one on the bird we call 4. I call her my problem child. And if she did not have a transmitter on her, she would be dead. Because we've wrestled her out of 3 cornfields, and she was caught in a woven wire fence, and one time walking right down a road. And so she'd been, surely if it wasn't for being able to wrestle her out of places like cornfield. Cornfields are they're a trap for bald eagles. If a young bald eagle lands into this tall, the corn's now 6 feet tall, they can't even get out. They're just stranded. And it's interesting to learn, and we do have a lot of corn here, we do. So, and then this is that 2011 May's trip, D1's trip, up to just northern Minnesota, then back. Then here she is where she went the following year to Polar Bear Provincial Park, which is amazing. It's 1,000 miles away from here. It's closer to the North Pole than to Decorah. It's just amazing that she would do that. And then always come right back to Decorah. And this was D14. It's not a good map. But then I got the call that D14, that the transmitter hadn't moved, and I drove out to central Iowa and found D14 electrocuted. And this is really my passion. This is a Falcon nest box that I put up 27 years ago on a smokestack, and it's attracted and it's had falcons every year since. And this was our very first bird cam. I think it was 1996, but I'm not sure. It was a long time ago. And I remember it was a black and white image, updated every 2 minutes, and no audio. But I immediately, a 6th grade class in Seattle, Washington, adopted as part of a curriculum. So that was that was the spark for us to keep going, because we saw that it could be, and the bird cams could be used in the classroom. So that's kind of been the impetus for us to keep going, and that's why we always encourage teachers, to enlist, even to the point where we'll pay for them to not have ads. And it's all because of, we know that we're doing good things. Here's a downside to having bird cams, is this is a fight to the death right here. What you're seeing in this photograph of 2 falcons trying to displace one another at a nest box 400 feet up a smokestack in Minneapolis. And so this is the downside to a nest box, to a camera. And you do get to see some pretty brutal and ugly things. Here was my high hope. For years I wanted to have a turkey vulture cam. And we did a lot of research, and we finally met some people down in Missouri, and I can't think of the name, little town. Marshall, Missouri, thank you. And they had a turkey vulture nesting in their old horse barn in their backyard. I drove down there, and it was perfect. It was only 200 feet away from his office, so we built a camera system and microphones and infrared cameras. And the first year, it was just stunning for me to watch. And I actually thought the world would fall in love with them. I thought they'd look at them like pugs or something like that. I was wrong. It didn't work out that way. But a lot of people did. I think it still had 1 million views, and some people found. And we learned something too. This has been the first ever turkey vulture cam. And by having infrared, we learned, for example, that you could tell the difference between the male and the female, which is incredible, because experts can't unless they do a laparotomy and go in and look at for either gonads or ovum. But in this case, we know that we have one of the turkey vultures, like this one, had a very smooth head, and the other one had a very wrinkled head, and one of the smooth head laid the egg. So we knew. Then the following year, we bumped it up. We put in more cameras, and we improved the audio system, and put in more IR illuminators, and this year before last, the birds returned, the female laid an egg. A few hours later, a rogue vulture went in and ate the egg. They were in their camera. And then the birds just deserted the barn. And this year, the same thing happened. I believe we had 1 egg laid, and another vulture came in, ate that egg, and then there's virtually been no sighting of the vulture since. So, yeah, turkey vulture. So we don't know what that means, but I guess if we're ever going to have another turkey vulture cam, we're probably going to have to find another turkey vulture nest. So let me know if you hear of one, or if you want a man one. This is a Kestrel cam that I've had for many, many years in Rush, Colorado. It's a power plant there, and then I put a nest box on top of the administration building, and we have a camera here that's looking straight down. Not my best angle when it comes to looking at birds, but they are a wonderful species, and we've done some experimenting here in Iowa of putting Kestrel boxes on the gravel roads and creating a huge population. They're almost 100% occupancy and 100% production. That's pretty incredible to know that if we utilize the rural roads of rural America, we can actually help save the species, because the Kestrel population is dwindling in some parts of America. So we know how we can correct it, though. We can right that wrong. I love this image because it's like, who stole the remote? I mean, that's what all that comes to mind is these 5 babies just looking out the hole. It looks like it's lit up by a computer screen. And this is a barn owl cam that we've got in Colorado, but we just don't have enough bandwidth to put it on the internet. But someday we might. It just might. We'd probably have to do some changes in it. The camera's just a little bit too close to the subject, but someday we might create another barn owl cam.